Be happening now. Hey, hello, George. Thank you for joining us for this another office hour. So, how are you doing today?
Thank you for the invitation. Hi, they're very excited to be here.
Yeah, thank you. And before we jump into you and your venture, just a little recall of what is this, and for the people who joined us for the first time, why did we decided to do something new in this industry? So there is not a lot of models. People know the MEA, Ask Me Anything type of a model, or the Fireside chat. And we said to ourselves, let's just open the door, the future door, of our office with friends and colleagues and partners and great disruptors. And this is what it is. It's an office hour with an open door to the community. So the idea is that we review every week, actually, some questions coming from the crowd. Usually you guys are a little bit shy to post comments. So I'm reiterating that if you have a question for me or George or for anyone in our industry you want us to tackle, just put it in the chat below. And we are monitoring the chat. And if there is a question, we can pop up. Usually you guys are, when I'm saying it's a bit shy, we receive question after when we do those replays, which is fine. I mean, we review them anyway. So if we have questions for myself or for George, we will relay them and even bring him back if we needed to. So before we join, so who is Allegory Capital and why you might see this in your feed? We wanted to be a new kind of data-driven VC. So we started in digital health, actually from a women health, pretty deep expertise on this market, bridging the US and Europe for that category. And 2 years ago, we started the fintech venture line to basically also content some of our investors as digital health, and George might come back to it. It's a long journey to actually build valuation because of the generation of evidence and the costs, the capex cost of building digital health. It's not an easy journey. So we felt that as a regulated industry-focused VC, fintech was a good addition to the mix, and it is actually, to be honest, it's we see a lot of connection between digital health and fintech, despite what people might think. And last but not the least, more and more of our investors behind us, which are usually corporate VCs, are talking about climate tech as a new way for them to fulfill their ESG agenda. So instead of just sponsoring, projects that are NGOs project, they say it might be interesting actually to use our money for also the climate impact. And so building a portfolio around climate tech is a way to answer the ESG agenda. So that is for the who we are, why do we exist, why people would miss us if we didn't exist. So, and I'm not alone in this. Great thank you to Lorenzo, who is helping us organizing all those, calls and reach out to great people in the community. So coming back to you, George, can you tell us a little bit more about you as a background, and also later on we'll deep dive into Feel as your company.
Absolutely. Hi there. So, hello everybody. I'm George Eleftheriou, co-founder and CEO of Field Therapeutics, a digital precision medicine company that focuses on reinventing the way that we diagnose, manage, and care for mental health based on objective, passive, and continuous data that we can collect from digital physiological sources. As you can tell from the very long last name, I come from Greece originally, grew up in Athens, Greece, studied electrical and computer engineering, and then moved to the US for grad school at Columbia University. Then I joined McKinsey, spent a couple of years in management consulting, and this was the point in my life that I experienced for the very first time a challenge with regard to my mental health. After very long hours at McKinsey and working 100-hour weeks more often than not, I experienced burnout. And this was the inspiration for starting this company in the field of mental health. So that's very quickly a bit of an introduction about us, but of course we're going to deep dive much more in a minute.
Yes, so thank you for that. So about field therapeutics right now, can you give us a bit where you are, the company, what's the stage of the company? Is it actually a US company, as we can decipher from your intro?
Correct. So the company is headquartered in San Francisco, in California. We started in the US, but we always had the dual model in mind. So we have business development in the US, and we have engineering, product development, and R&D out of our office in Athens, Greece. So today I'm speaking to you from our office in Athens. And we have the majority actually of our employees in Athens, close to 25 people in our Athens office. And this has a lot of benefits for the company in terms of attracting the right talent, but also gives us the opportunity to be active on both sides of the Atlantic and explore opportunities both with European pharmaceutical companies primarily, as well as American ones that are the primary focus for us.
Interesting. So yeah, so you're kind of already bridging, growth market with the US and basically the talent pool that is known to be quite good in Europe when it comes to digital health. Right. This is also what we see from our side. A lot of companies are investing in European teams because of the talent pool. Right. So how old is the company? When did you start at the Field Therapeutics?
So originally, we started the company called Sentio Solutions. This company started in late 2015, early 2016. This company evolved into Field Therapeutics back in the late 2021, early 2022. The mission of the company, I would say, has remained the same since day one, and it's been on how we can bring this objective, passive, and continuous monitoring in the field of mental health in the same way that we have this measurement and monitoring in any other medical field, right? Imagine if we didn't have glucose monitors in the management of diabetes, or if we didn't have blood pressure monitors in cardiovascular disease, in managing cardiovascular disease. So ultimately, the focus has remained the same. What has changed over the past years is the focus of the company in terms of go-to-market. So in late 2021, early 2022, we decided to focus on partnering with pharmaceutical companies as a way to generate evidence for our platform, but also to bring our platform in the hands of the end user, either alongside the medication or as a standalone.
So interesting. So right now, the traction, I mean, the validation point is not only you had a good idea and you wanted to go to the US market, you also wanted to go to the industry to have like a first touchdown on with the data, right? Because that is also what is one of the biggest struggle with digital health. Tell me if I'm wrong, is generating evidence, and properly evidence generation in the US is not easy when you're a startup. You need to start from somewhere. That's your way of basically killing the chicken egg problem. Yeah.
Of course, and especially when you are not only validating something that is already being validated in academia, but when you are doing novel research. For example, as part of the work that we have done, we have discovered a novel digital biomarker that could be utilized potentially down the road as a diagnostic for ADHD. Right, to validate that marker and to take it from discovery to clearance. This is a very, very long process. And it's a process that requires tremendous amount of resources and expertise. And that's one of the reasons why we have decided to partner with pharma, because they possess both the resources, the expertise, both on the regulatory side and on the clinical side. And of course, they possess distribution networks and channels to get those novel digital markers or those novel digital therapeutics or patient support solutions to the hands of to providers, to clinicians, and to patients at the end of the day.
And from your distribution part, so I can see that you have obviously data as a central node of your value-added service, right? You're developing also algorithm, I guess, precise and clinically validated algorithm. But do you also distribute this through IoT devices, or how is your, because usually when you're like a software and data company, comes along, those remote monitoring solutions, and often there is IoT platforms or IoT products in the middle. How do you deal with that? Do you have a distributed approach, or do you want at some point to build your own devices? How do you see that?
First of all, we have already built a proprietary medical grade device. This is the second generation that you see on my wrist, and the one that you see on the website as well. We started actually from building a device because your algorithms and your AI platforms are only as good as the data that they ingest. So we started by building a device because we couldn't get this type of data and like from any other third-party devices. The future of the company is device agnostic. So we have already integrated third-party devices, wearable devices in our platform. So we utilize our own device when we need clinical grade accuracy and precision. And when we're not, this is not the priority, we can utilize third-party devices as well. So that's one in terms of the data. So to answer your question, Haider, we also work with third-party IoT devices, but we can bring to the table a proprietary medical-grade device that will actually be cleared by the FDA like by the first half of next year. That's our goal.
No, it's interesting because I'm working recently on remote monitoring, remote patient monitoring solutions, and the reimbursement pathways, that are connected with this with those applications, and especially in the US, it's a huge market, right, where you have manufacturers trying to bring value around their service, and then you have real software companies. I would say, I'm not saying they're not real software company, but they come more from a heavy industrial mindset, not super patient friendly, to be honest, right? It's more like, we have a tool and you can just push it there. What I liked with your approach is that you kept this patient friendliness, right? So I like the fact that you have those programs that can feel distributable by third party. That could be a pharma company, that could be a government, that could be a patient advocacy group, right? So am I right when I feel that it was part of the core of your company to not just be great at doing the tech, but also vulgarizing it or making it, adaptable or adoptable enough for patients?
100% Haider, and ultimately, if you don't have a solution that delivers value back to the end user and to the providers as well, this solution will never be adapted and will never be engaging enough to be able to collect the good quality of data that we're talking about in order to develop or validate or deliver novel digital markers. So the mission of the company is how we can utilize this data to deliver precise and personalized support or interventions, right? It's all about this level of precision. So that's the reason that we didn't only focus on developing a device or a platform that monitors a patient's or an individual's mental health, but we also developed support activities or digital interventions that could be delivered based on these data sets. And ultimately, Haider, we also have tested those solutions not only with pharmaceuticals that are actually the main partners that we have right now, but we have tested those solutions with health plans, with insurers in both the US and in Europe, in Germany, for example, because ultimately it's like one thing, of course, this to be interesting and engaging for the end user. The other thing is for a solution, a novel DHT, to be interesting, to be reimbursed from insurers. And you mentioned CPT codes for remote patient monitoring, which is one avenue for us to do it. Another one is value-based care, especially in the US. This gains significant traction, and especially because in mental health we truly need a level of measurement to establish this value-based care. Solutions like ours become even more appealing. So 100% going beyond just monitoring and delivering value is of critical importance.
Two things that pops up to my mind. Yes, big forces happening right now in digital health is definitely the regulators asking for more real-world evidence, value-based healthcare. I pay only if my patient is back on track, right? In terms of reestablishment of the mood, reestablishment of the quality of life, the mindset, behavior change, that kind of thing is coming up. I've tested this in the fertility world where it was actually, huge to see the impact of the mental health between two failed IVF cycles, for example, right? And it was not a biometric issue. It was really getting emotionally ready, even for, the guys, not just the woman who failed the cycle. It was also psychologically as a couple, you had to be believing again that this is the right solution. So it's huge. I think this is one of the first forces. The second forces is, I think COVID also helped to understand this. In the mental health world, tell me if I'm wrong, right? You are the expert on that therapeutic area there, but and since COVID, employers, right, companies understood that mindfulness, taking care of their employees, right, around that potential burnout and everything that goes with it is an issue. So suddenly, patient care entered the office in a way, on the mental health with a mental health, label on it. And I think this opens up so much more opportunities from a reimbursement model, that it is not just I'm sick, I'm a patient anymore, right? The prevention and the detectability of this in the workplace is now becoming prevalent. Will you agree with my statement here?
100%, Haider. I would say that also COVID, because the mental health impact of COVID was so profound, we saw that just from a statistics standpoint, we saw that anxiety and depression actually doubled during COVID, and we're talking about conditions that already were affecting 1 out of 4 individuals globally. So ultimately, this created awareness among all of us. It lowered the stigma that was very, very prevalent in the field of mental health. And now we see the younger generations expressing their thoughts around their mental health in a much more open manner, like Gen Z especially speaks about mental health in a way that no other generation before did. And this is a profound impact of COVID as well. But as you mentioned, it was the impact that this could have in the workplace, the impact that this could have in all of our lives ultimately. So the other aspect is, and you mentioned it well, that mindfulness. It's not only about poor mental health. We all of us have mental health. Some of us better, some of us poorer mental health, and each one of us will have different levels of mental health during their lifetime, right? So it's the same as in physical health, right? So what's critical here is how we can develop the tools to deliver the right support activity or the right intervention to the right individual at the right time. So today, George might need only a mindfulness exercise in order to stay mentally fit. But in a few months from now, because he will be going through a very intense period at his startup company, maybe he needs some psychotherapy work. or maybe he needs a digital intervention, or maybe even pharmacological intervention. So this level of precision and personalization was also very profound during COVID and the aftermath of COVID as well.
Yeah, so for me, so let's take a step back, because I think some of the people who see digital health right now, and a lot of people actually in the industry, when I'm talking with them, they see this big thing called digital health. And somehow they see you guys as companies innovating from a technology perspective. They see softwares, data, huge, middleware, DSP platforms, and clinical, I would say the clinical aspect. I'm sure you have also people that are from the science with you. You're not just a bunch of engineers and geeks, around platforms. You do have people from those therapeutic areas who understand how to develop that. So I think what is interesting, and this is what I say to people, why digital health is an interesting field. It has the word digital in it, but in reality, we are all talking about data in a different form, right? It's we are using different channels to capture that data, or to monitor that data, or to transform that data. But what I think digital health companies, especially, and we'll focus on mental health here in a second, what I try to explain to pharma companies and people who tells me, yeah, they didn't invent anything new, we had data before. But what I'm trying to explain is, you guys, and tell me again if I'm wrong, you guys see data as a currency. You see data as something that moves, that can go with volumes, tiny bits of data that can go quickly, getting augmented with more touch points you get into different programs, into different channels, and so on. You get more value each time the data circulate. While in a pharmaceutical company, when we do a clinical trial, it is a monolithic view. We do a lot of efforts. It's quite monolithical in the sense that effort is then stored in ice, and then we look back into the ice, and it's not moving. And it is a good archive to look at, because it was a lot of energy and money, but it's not moving. And I think digital health brings that sense of currency, augmentation, value added into an ecosystem. It's a good systemic engine in that ecosystem that is healthcare, right? And I think mental health, if I zoom in, mental health brings that cross-therapeutic area view, which is interesting when I see your pipeline. So it's not just looking at mental health as ADHD or all those disorders. It's also looking at mental health before or after or during those comorbidities. And I think this is where you can be a data store yourself for people who maybe not are aware of their issues right now, that might develop it because they are unconscious or maybe scared about this, or the people who are under treatment and that need to have a better adherence, and that they are kind of depressed about taking their medication. So this is what I wanted to just give as an highlight of why there is so much buzz around digital health since a few years. Do you agree that this is the biggest difference? You as a player, as a smaller, faster player in the world of healthcare and data?
I think, Haider, there is, when it comes to data, there are different forms of data. Obviously, what you mentioned is true in terms of those data sets living in isolated from one another within large organizations like pharmaceutical companies. But I would say it's also what can we get beyond the traditional data that we were getting until now. And let's just get the example of mental health. In mental health right now, we utilize primarily self-reported questionnaires in order to diagnose or monitor the progression of disease of an individual. In clinical trials, we might also have raters, as they call them, to rate specific individuals participating based on specific scales as well. And when we say scales, we mean questionnaires again, right? So just to make things very easy and simplify, let's take the example of PHQ-9. PHQ-9 is a questionnaire that was developed years ago, over 25 years ago, and it asks 9 basic questions. The first question is, have you noticed any changes in your mood over the past few weeks? So it tells you, I feel more often than not in low mood. So you have like 4 options to select. The second question is around sleep. Have you noticed any changes in your sleep patterns? The third question is about stress or social activities and so on. Today, all of those measures, we don't need to ask the individual to report back to us, because obviously this has a lot of bias in it. We can collect these measures passively through wearable devices, through the sensors of the phone of an individual. Through our platform, for example, we can detect changes in the mood state of an individual in real time. We can monitor, not only through our platform, but through many sources. We can monitor sleep today. We can monitor stress levels through through mobile phones and the GPS. We can monitor the socialization of an individual. So all of this data today we can collect in a through very different modalities, and without having to ask the individual every day or every few weeks, how have you been feeling over the past few weeks? So I think it is definitely about the availability of data, but also it is about the collection of data as well.
Yeah, this is a good point. I think the collection of data is also where people, because there are patient data and consumers, they get scared to it, right? They get like, oh, it's a different beast. If I have an investigator in the middle, it's reinsuring. But this is why there is a place, I think, for market leaders in those solutions like you guys, because it feels to me that we are at the beginning of a new definition of healthcare when it comes to this. Because the thing that we don't see is right now we're developing solution for maybe things we know today, but what if the definition of healthcare is going to be a little bit different? People might be willing, or government might be willing in 20 years to actually pay for relevant programs that are keeping me healthy. And my mind being healthy is of great interest, not only for like physical therapies where there is a combination, but also when you look at work, our work is changing to be much more intense on that end, especially with the the next generation of people who are going to work maybe with a very, very different set of constraints. And tomorrow the healthcare system might see healthcare not being just like the sick care version of today, where you're sick, you get diagnosed, we need to fix you up in a way. It will be maybe the definition of we need to prevent you to actually become in that state. So we will actually ask you to work on or to get the data that will prevent you to fall into that non-return point, right? So I think this is where I think those your solution, and this is why I'm advocating for companies sometimes to not reinvent the wheel, because this is another problem. Where I promised to my audience I would say the non-political correct things as well in this show. There is also the negative side of digital health right now. There's a lot of players, and you have kind of that a lot of airlines, and you don't know where to book your ticket type of feeling. And I think a lot of doctors are feeling that way as well. The clinical practice, when you talk to doctors, they say, yeah, another company with another app, that feel is there. So I think there is also, from my perspective, there is a need right now to consolidate market leadership in those therapeutic areas. It could be by market, it could be by therapeutic area. Usually this is what I recommend. Market like the US, or market based on therapeutic area niches. But we need to have, I will not say the booking.com of those solutions, but at some point there start to be a fatigue of having 20, 25 apps to follow through. do you? I know it's maybe not an easy answer to give us, but what do you think about that fatigue when it comes to multiple solution, multiple data provider, data solutions outside? What do you think of
Yeah,
this?
that's a great question. Let me start from the first point that you made, Haider. The first one around how we can be proactive in our interventions and delivering precise care. I think that over the past few weeks, we have seen this happening more and more. We have seen companies, and especially AI and LLMs, support that a lot. We saw, for example, Google announcing that they will be utilizing data not only from the phone, but also data from their Fitbit devices in order to create personal health LLMs, right? To create a personal coach that could be with you 24/7 based on your physiological data, based on your health data. Very similar to what we do for mental health, for example. We collect data and we deliver personalized support based on this data. And also, we see companies like Tempus AI that they just IPO'd for, I don't know, $11 billion. Tempus, another precision medicine company, delivering on exactly what you mentioned, how we can identify the right patient early on and deliver a life-changing treatment to that patient. So we see personalization, precision being the key part now of the solution, and we also see that more and more digital health players are getting bigger and bigger, and the bigger players are also more and more interested in digital health solutions. Google is a great example, of course, but not only them. Even companies like Meta, they have a big healthcare group and focus, right? Each and every one of the big tech companies, and of course the
Yeah.
traditional life science players as well. And the reason why I'm saying that is because I believe that this will lead into a consolidation sooner than later, Haider, and we will see the companies, the IQVIAs of the world, or the J&Js, or the large pharmaceuticals of the world to acquire digital health companies and deliver and integrate them into their solutions, but also we will be seeing many tech companies to integrate digital health players in order to deliver more comprehensive offerings. So I agree with you, there is a level of fatigue, but ultimately, if you look at what happened in the dot-com era, for example, right? There was the bubble bursted at some point. The bubble also
Yeah.
bursted for digital health back in 2023, I believe. And then the companies that survived had a much greater chance of success, and we built some, that dot-com era built some of the greatest companies of our generation right after. So I think that's the next step for digital health as well.
I do agree. No, that's a good point. So there are some models where we had consolidated companies, right? But I think this moment is more prominent now. That's why I think we have also to be careful to not recreate. I would say copycats that are basically dividing, because at some point what I see a lot of the VC play could be in digital health and M&A play. So it could be like a bigger company identifying that, instead of recreating efforts to open the German affiliate, they could actually partner or extend, an invitation to collaborate with a German counterpart. And I think this is a complexity here, because we always pursue growth. What I see, tell me if this is something you might see as well, the gross cost of a market like the US, sometimes because of the valuation of companies in the US, could be, and this is again provocative to say, it could be cheaper to buy a German company valued the European way than actually searching that 500,000 users yourself in the US, due to the models of the US and the cost of growing there and so on. This is why I see sometimes some VC conversation turning into almost business development and M&A conversation, and I think the world is hybridizing in there too. It's not classical to say, let's put Series A funding and just accelerate, right? Sometimes you have to be a little bit more pragmatic because you have to get, a foot maybe in the two sides of the ocean to create that market leader. So it's, somehow, I don't know if this is somehow true for field therapeutics and mental health, but in a lot of therapeutic area where you need to showcase quickly that you could be that global player, often the multi-country organization question comes around the Series A, profile. I don't know if you agree with me, but that's what I feel.
I think that I agree, because in digital health and in healthcare overall, it's very hard to grow in an organic way, because each country and its region would have a very different regulatory profile, and let's look between FDA and EMA, for digital health companies and medical devices, huge differences. Very hard to scale on both at the same time. So I think M&A makes sense on that front, Haider, in order to capture those markets. Let's take the example of Germany, right? Germany, one of the very first, I believe, country that adopted reimbursement through of digital therapeutic solutions. Right now, to get to the level of receiving reimbursement, it's probably going to be 3 years, right, for any new player. Which means that ultimately someone that wants to move faster and has the resources would be in a better spot to acquire a company that is already penetrated that market than doing it themselves. So this level of regulatory industries, and I think this is close to your thesis as a company, create opportunities for sure for companies that are the incumbents in those spaces.
No, this is why. So I'm trying to say that we need to reinvent model with this type of company like we have here with you. We need to reinvent the model, and I believe the world is going to be much more metrics based on therapeutic area expertise, right? So this is how we can connect healthcare the best way. So usually people tell me, what's the angle to tackle digital health, and I say always therapeutic area gateway is the right one to take, because it makes everyone connected to the topic. Patients, payers, caregivers, innovators. If you start, for example, to take diabetes, right, as an easy example. If you take diabetes and you say, let's disrupt the way we treat diabetes today from start to finish, and we want to bring a better experience, and we will tackle the unmet need. If you focus on diabetes and you take really the holistic approach around it, it will be easier than, for example, say, let's take decentralized clinical trials and disrupt it, because it's so complex to go to each TA. So the TA approach, I think, is a right one when you start. You go from 0 to 1, and you need to build a critical mass of data so that you master one TA. And then once you have it, you reach. I don't know if this is the way you work, guys, right? I'm just thinking out loud, but it feels to me, once you detect some pattern, because humans are humans and the market is a market. If you understand the way Germany works or Switzerland works or the US works, then you have those patterns and you understand the rules. Then it's easy to go and say, interesting, in diabetes, there are some related mental health patterns that we can start to solve. And then you can start to switch to another therapeutic area. But I think it requires you that hardcore focus with this holistic, like an octopus, right? You cannot just treat the patient's consumer side. You need to come at it the whole way on the TA, and then expand to make sense to the entire ecosystem.
Agree more. I couldn't agree more, Haider. And this is the approach that we took as well. We focused on like mental health, of course, only, but even within mental health, only on depression and anxiety first. We build our data set, our core expertise there, and then we started expanding in other areas. Still, the majority of our of people in our platform are in depression and anxiety. And as you said, even when it comes to other conditions. You saw multiple sclerosis and breast cancer and other conditions there. Like even in those cases, the majority of like the focus is on the mental health side of those diseases, right? It's not on the primary condition. So that's something important to keep in mind, that we don't have an expertise to deliver something that could alternate the primary condition in multiple sclerosis, but we do have the expertise to target the mental health comorbidity of multiple sclerosis. So that's the focus that we have. But I couldn't agree more. You need to focus on a particular therapeutic area and then expand from that one to other ones.
Yeah, because this is the right now what we see as the trend is the seed around digital health are getting higher. Year to year, we see a trend that the ticket entry for digital health is becoming a much more complex scale, because right now it's also requiring to get to those nice valuation from pure VC perspective, right? I'm just thinking, if I have to raise funding right now for a startup, what will be the gameplay? So you're already a bit more mature, right? You already have a product outside and you went through the fire, right? But if you're a new company right now trying to disrupt this, it's likely that you need much more funding than before because of the clinical evidence required to get through the regulators and to have that reimbursement likelihood, right? So that people think it can get into the hand of the clinical practice. Otherwise, the other choice you get is to become a consumer-friendly solution, and it's a volume play. And then the volume play is also not cheap. So if you have to choose as a VC between a digital health company that has the hand into the science, that talks the clinical talk, and that has the perspective of do precision medicine, predictive medicine, that kind of thing, and a company that can tell you, I can capture 30% of the whole total addressable market on Instagram. I'm sorry to say to the people who are doing a good job on the consumer community-based stuff, but digital health is shifting heavily now towards the clinical side more than the consumer side, right? And it's maybe changing for the best. I don't know if this is not like a yes or no type of question, but I feel, at least this is my perspective, that we see in digital health what happened in biotech 20 years ago, where biotech companies were kind of now getting much more comfortable to get funding because they knew the path for reimbursement was clearer. And this is, I think, what is happening now, because the path of the regulator is clearer, of the demand is clearer. Now also the investment is much more prominent compared to, I need to raise 5 million because I want to do a campaign on Instagram and reach 5 million people, right? I don't know if you follow me in my thinking, but I really feel a shift in the last couple of years in the design of those seed rounds and those Series A.
And I think, Haider, like, first of all, when it comes to consumer digital health companies, I think that the reality is that the majority of the successes so far of the larger organizations, or like many of them, are on the consumer side. However, exactly as you said, the barrier to entry is major and an economical one. I think that companies like Whoop, for example, might be spending, I don't know, $10 million per month in customer acquisition. When it comes to a small startup company, they cannot compete with those type of budgets, right? However, as you said when it comes to the scientific expertise, this is an area of differentiation. And this is something that might take a longer path to be adopted, but still it's like, especially for early stage VCs or early stage companies, it's a much more viable path to sustainability and growth with a longer term mindset in place. So I agree from that standpoint. I would say also that it is probably more than a couple of years. In my mind, like, the shift from the direct consumer started, when Livongo IPO'd, like, and everybody was rushing towards employer type of solutions. And I think that those are also shifting back. Those models going directly to employer also are not working well, especially in the US. What we have seen, and it's quite interesting, working more lately, beyond, of course, working with pharma, is partnering directly with providers. In some cases, with healthcare systems and hospitals, this could be also a path to growth.
Yeah. No, I think for me, what I like about the way you present the company profile is that you really had a vision that is end to end. So just from a data perspective, just asking from a technology perspective, do you see new trends coming up in the future? Because obviously the big conversation I see around the room is around, predictability, having more empathic chatbots, voice bots talking to you as a human, and this will be much more acceptable. So in terms of the experience, as you guys are creating tech and educational program and a lot of basically things, right, that comes around this, is Gen AI something that you guys explore? Have you tested this? I am obliged to ask because it comes a lot in the questions where people are telling us, are funders now just looking at this as an add-on to their roadmap, or is this becoming a core to their roadmap because it's so disruptive? Which one are you?
So basically, Haider, I know there is a lot of hype around Gen AI these days. We have been obviously utilizing AI, artificial intelligence, for like since the very beginning of the company. Ultimately, for us, AI is focusing on translating the physiological and digital data that we collect into digital biomarkers for mental health, right? So because this requires a great degree of personalization and a great degree of precision. Of course, so different techniques than LLMs, but in many cases, but still artificial intelligence for sure we have been utilizing from the very beginning. Now, when it comes to LLMs specifically and Gen AI, as I mentioned before, this is a trend for sure, and we are now in discussions with a number of tech companies around how we could utilize our AI platform in order to translate their data into meaningful measures that could inform LLMs to deliver personalized advice and coaching. So we're definitely very involved with that, and we see Gen AI and LLMs being able to translate primarily the insights into something that is personalized to the individual. This is where we see a great degree of value around how, like, let's take the example of a Fitbit device, right? Fitbit counts your steps, counts a bunch of different things. The insights are still not personalized enough, right? You cannot, like, you only see specific user experience graphs that the Fitbit team selected, but those are not specifically for you. So all of that, I think that Gen AI will definitely help. So it will make digital health applications much more engaging for sure. From a clinical standpoint, I don't think that that Gen AI, like other than the presentation, the visualization, and the insight generation, I don't think that Gen AI will be disruptive on that front. Other AI techniques will be probably more disruptive.
Interesting. And which one, for example, I know you guys have, this IoT, right? You have your own medical devices, basically. So, what is the innovation you can, from an engineering perspective, you can foresee there? Because you're a tech
Uh,
company after all, right? So,
Correct. I would say the biggest part of our IP, Hyder, is not on the wearable, it is on the platform that translates the data from the wearable as well as from other modalities like the sensors of the phone or from voice, video, and text into meaningful measures for mental health. This is where the majority of our IP is, and this is where we have already a number of patents. On the hardware side, we have a continuous electrodermal activity sensor on our devices that doesn't exist in most devices today, but we believe that in the near future it is going to be existing in most devices. This is the sensor that I'm talking about. This sensor
I see.
allows us to monitor changes in the skin conductivity of an individual, which is an indicator related to mental health specifically and the arousal of the autonomic nervous system. So I would say the majority of the IP and innovation is on the algorithmic side, but having medical grade data and the highest quality of input helps us create very precise digital measures and digital biomarkers specifically for mental health. So that's the medium, let's say, to make it happen.
So basically, some of the good application for you guys would be, if I look at home care, facilities who needs to monitor at scale, I don't know, hundreds of thousands, maybe millions of people in the US that are home cared, and they have nurses visiting them, and potentially they could be at risk, right? So this is also where your solution, because of the way it is versatile, right? It can connect to, it's agnostic. It can connect to different pieces of providers. Could be a fit, right? That's what I understand.
Correct. But primarily for us, it's like we go to market alongside medications. So the intention is to be part of the label of
I
specific
see.
medications and be delivered alongside the drug as part of the prescription of the provider. And this is an area
Which
where
is a
we see.
good combo, right? Because then the drug, it's because I worked on that type of strategies for drug manufacturers. If they have you on their side commercially, then it's much more difficult to do an automatic switch when it's come to the generic time, because the
Correct.
generic cannot do 20 years of data management like you had, right? So that also is
Correct.
the right combo for
Exactly.
demonstrating value. Yeah.
Exactly,
I
and
see.
also it is all about how you can utilize the data to deliver much more precise treatments. So,
Yeah.
let's take the example of bipolar disorder, right? Individuals moving from um, mania to depression, being able to identify these changes in their mood, those mood swings, is
Yeah.
critical in order to ask them to change their medication, to visit their provider and change their medication. So being able to have this real-time, continuous monitoring of mental health in the same way that we have it for diabetes, for cardiovascular disease, for so many disorders, it's critical, and this will be the standard of care in a few years from now. So that's where we focus, and that's why we partner with pharma, because ultimately the first step here is how we can utilize this data to personalized pharmacological interventions. In the near future, we are going to see partnerships not only with pharmacological, but also with digital or mindfulness solutions, as you
And
mentioned
a
before.
big tech company, because what I know, talking with some big tech company, as you mentioned before, one of their first area of disruption in healthcare, when they want to tackle healthcare, is mental health. because they have employees anyway. And also what I learned from their own growth agenda is that being disconnected from a screen, right, is also not, I would not say in their interest, but it's basically it's not something that is it's not in their interest to have an army of patients that is basically just getting distressed and not connecting positively with solutions, right? So they need to find also ways to cater to those special needs with the relevant solutions. And this is one of them. So letting, for example, people like veterans from the army just vegetating on social network without solution is not a good thing. So they want to tackle that aspect with proper tools and proper content and proper value. But I think there is a big wave of big tech companies that are going to enter healthcare, not through cardiovascular, diabetes, and so on. They are going to enter healthcare through mental health, that's for sure.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. And maybe you should connect us with this company that you just mentioned.
This is why mental health is so big. It has to sum, just because we come at the end of our conversation, to sum. Digital health, with your example, is clearly showcasing that you need to approach it as a holistic solution. I think you guys did that. It's interesting to see that it is a lot of work, right? So it's not something that you can disrupt in 6 months. So anyone asking why this is pumping a lot of money, it's because there's a lot of expertise, a lot of data, a lot of compliance, a lot of capex to actually innovate in those spaces. I think the second piece is if you want to find growth, you need partners and you need markets where those markets have clear reimbursement models. And I think the US, Germany, or Switzerland, and some other countries out there are getting into that value-based healthcare reimbursement system and scheme. I think this is also the second good recipe and good reason why digital health is on the map. And I think we discussed that mental health, specifically for you guys at Field Therapeutics, mental health is an interesting venue or an interesting line to invest within healthcare, because it could be for any organization relevant, as we have employees, but also because of the comorbidity tracking profiles of mental health that can be the glue and the predictable glue between different therapeutic areas that are themselves chronic diseases.
Correct.
So in terms of where you want to go, are you racing right now? Where do you stand in your growth model? Are you post Series A? Are you now working out your next stage of capitalization as a company? Where do you sit now?
We're planning, Haider, to raise our next round of funding early next year. Right now, we have recently closed. We're about to close basically a convertible note that we did, but the major growth for us will be primarily with our Series A funding in early 2025. And for us, this will mean how we can grow beyond, beyond a smaller number of groups or client organizations to much larger scale. And also it will mean that how we can focus in more therapeutic areas. As you said, the focus for now was in a niche, and now how can we expand beyond that?
Yeah, I think this is definitely, when we talk about growth and digital health, there are like horizontal and vertical expansions. Horizontal to have much more therapeutic area, because that is more data. That will give you an unfair competitive advantage for any type of company in this space. And I think vertically it's going to be the therapeutic area, and horizontally it's going to be more markets. So the more reimbursement market access you get, and the also better understanding you will have from those consumers, right? So if tomorrow a company wants to do this combo with a drug or with a medical device, and that is, I think, how we can build the next generation of market leader in digital health. Now, I think I wanted to use you and your drive and your company as kind of a model of why, because people ask me a lot, if we have to start in digital health beyond our core business, what should it be? And I keep telling them mental health. So I wanted to have a mental health company on stage to basically explain all the good reasons why mental health is the right first, let's say, investment if you are building a digital health portfolio, because it's so versatile. It's much more complex to do this if you go in MS. If you don't have an MS drug and you want to invest in MS, it's going to be a struggle, or like C. difficile and gastro, and because it's so far, right? It's so niche. But mental health is really that versatile solution, and as an exit and as a potential to really blow up, especially in the US, as we know with Medicaid, Medicare coming into the picture. I think it's really the right thing. Yeah. Anything for people listening to us that you want to give as a food of thought for people who wants to join that type of space in digital health or in mental health? Any struggle that you would have done maybe differently? Some watch outs, from your journey as an entrepreneur. What would you recommend to people who wants to initiate that journey?
Hi there. I would say that digital health is definitely a domain where we're going to be seeing more and more in healthcare in the coming years. We already see like the first steps of the integration and adoption of digital health in healthcare. But in 10 years from now, it's going to be the new standard of care in mental health and beyond. So I would say that let's have the end in mind, and let's be confident about this future, because I think there is no other way. So I would say that there is a big opportunity with AI, but even without the AI hype these days in digital health. And I would encourage individuals to join the journey as founders, as partners, as employees, as investors. But of course, I would tell everybody to be aware that innovation in healthcare takes time, and you can't move fast and break things, because when you break things in healthcare, people die, and it's important to make sure that this is.
It's a good point.
Yeah.
It's a good point, because I think people forget why there is this empirical approach to digital health and why there is so much money and data involved, because we cannot just do things the wrong way. It's a highly regulated market, so you cannot just go and break eggs, as you said. It's going to be a journey where you need to, like in fintech, right, where you cannot just process money, without knowing where this money comes from. I think in healthcare, it's like demultiplied in the complexity, and that's why I think people don't realize that innovation is constrained within the realms of regulation. And I think it's a good thing, otherwise everything will go crazy. But I think it adds a little flavor to digital health that no one could anticipate coming from outside. Yeah, good stuff. Thank you, George. I think we'll have this replay for people who wants to go through the journey again, with understanding what's behind. Definitely thank you for your time and sharing your thoughts and the wisdom behind it. If anyone has questions for you, I will drive them to your LinkedIn profile and potentially just comment below, and we will tag your LinkedIn profile so that we can find you faster. But definitely, as George said, if you are someone interested in investing, working, or partnering in mental health, feel free to reach out to Field Therapeutics, and we will gladly put you in touch. Thank you, George. To the next time, to the next episode.
Take care, everybody. Bye.
Bye.